Hey guys, tonight we're heading deep into the Hadza lands of northern Tanzania, where mornings begin with smoke, ash, and the faint hum of bees among the baobabs. You're about to wake in a world where everything you touch is earned directly from the earth, and where comfort is measured in sunlight and fire warmth, not possessions. You probably wouldn't last a full day here, but for now you only have to dream it. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sound that wakes you isn't an alarm but the gentle cough of a dying ember. Smoke breathes upward in thin ribbons from last night's fire, the coals still faintly alive beneath a scatter of ash. Across the clearing, a woman bends low to blow on hers, coaxing flame from grey dust. Her bracelets rattle softly with each breath. The air smells like charred wood and wild tubers, the heavy, comforting scent of a place that has never known plastic or paint. Your skin is coated in fine dust from the earth beneath your sleeping hide, and when you sit up, the world feels both ancient and freshly born. A child passes by with a stick, tracing lines in the dirt, half humming a tune that wanders up and down like a bird call. Someone laughs nearby, low, brief, and close to the ground. The Hadza do not shout in the morning. Voices stay soft, like the light. You rub your eyes and the horizon swells in muted gold. Acacia silhouettes lean toward the rising sun, and a distant whoop announces that someone's already spotted a beehive glinting high in a trunk. The forest hums awake with you. The warmth spreads slowly, touching your shoulders as you stretch. There are no houses here, only low shelters of branches and grass. They are not meant to last, and no one minds. A Hadza camp moves often, chasing water and food, guided by weather, game, and intuition older than memory. What you own fits in your arms: bows, arrows, a knife chipped from steel, perhaps a calabash for honey, a hide for sitting, and stories. The simplicity feels light, almost impossible for a mind used to walls. Someone hands you a roasted tuber. Its skin cracks beneath your fingers, the inner flesh smoky and sweet, still damp from the ashes. You bite, taste the wild yam, and chew slowly, feeling the starch coat your tongue. Across the fire, a girl giggles when the juice drips down her chin. The Hadza eat what they find: roots, berries, honey, small antelope, birds, fruit, whatever the bush offers that day. There's no larder, no schedule. Every meal is now. Wind moves through the dry grass, carrying the far-off sound of bees. Honey is gold here, both food and delight. The men climb for it, fearless, using smoking torches to calm the swarming hives wedged high in the ancient baobabs. You'll see that later, but for now you simply listen to the forest, its quiet conversation of insects, rustling, and an occasional bark of laughter. The pace of life stretches wide, like the horizon itself. You notice the ground, bare, warm, alive with ants. Each footstep is soft but firm. The dust feels fine between your toes, a texture that anchors you, a reminder that everything here connects directly: skin to soil, hand to food, story to flame. It is a complete loop, never broken. A small boy runs past holding a half-burned stick, pretending it's an arrow. His mother calls something in Hadza, the words clicking gently, half music, half scolding, and he slows, pretending to comply, but smiling all the while. The sun climbs higher, and the air begins to shimmer, sweat beads along your neck. A few of the men begin to prepare for hunting. They test their bows, tighten sinew strings, inspect arrows tipped with iron barbs. The shafts are light and true, polished with animal fat. You catch the faint smell of it, metal and smoke mixed with grass. They work in silence, but their gestures are easy, relaxed. Each movement has purpose, but no hurry. There's one detail here that feels small but remarkable. Each hunter carries a tiny bundle of poison made from the desert rose plant. They dip the arrow tips in it for hunting larger game, harmless to handle but deadly to eat if misused. It's a ritual of precision, a knowledge passed mouth to ear for generations. The children watch closely. The lesson isn't announced, it's absorbed. A woman squats nearby, rubbing a handful of red ochre into her hair, the scent sharp and earthy. It glows against her dark curls, catching the light. She's preparing for a long walk to gather berries, her laughter trailing in short bursts as she talks with her sister. The Hadza women form the quiet heartbeat of the camp, digging roots, finding water, raising children, keeping rhythm. Their gossip blends with the sounds of grinding stone, the rasp of sticks and the occasional cough. The day grows louder as the forest stirs. Birds flash between trees, bright, darting things that vanish the instant you look straight at them. The wind carries the smell of honey again, sharper this time, mixed with the resin of cut wood. The hunters glance at each other, and without words the plan forms. There's a hive to find before the sun gets high enough to drive the bees mad. Before they leave, one man breaks a branch from a nearby bush and rubs it between his palms. The sap darkens his fingers. It's a natural insect repellent, something every child knows by scent alone. You mimic the gesture, rub a bit on your skin, and immediately feel the cool tingle. It works. For a moment you feel like part of the camp, not a visitor. Someone offers you a sip from a gourd. It's water, slightly smoky, stored overnight beside the fire. The taste is strange at first, but grounding. In this place, nothing is wasted, not even the faint flavor of ash. You swallow, and the warmth in your chest matches the slow hum of the morning. From the edge of the camp, an older man begins humming a song. The melody climbs and dips without words, its rhythm tied to the work of hands, fletching, packing, binding. The Hadza do not separate music from life. It rises naturally, a pulse that moves between tasks, laughter, and silence. You feel it in your ribs more than your ears. As the hunters disappear into the bush, the camp exhales. Children chase each other with shrieks of dust. Women dig near the roots of trees, and the smoke curls lazily into the widening blue. The baobabs stand like watchful elders, each trunk hollow with time, holding both bees and spirits. The morning slides into day, soft and endless, full of movement that never seems rushed. A small bee lands on your arm. Its weight is nothing, but its presence feels immense. A messenger of the forest. You watch it wander, unbothered, then lift off into the warm air. Somewhere in the distance, a man's call echoes, faint, musical, a sign that honey has been found. The camp stirs with anticipation. Someone grins, mutters epime, under their breath, a word that carries a dozen meanings depending on tone. The sacred dance, the unity of men, or simply the joy of something shared. You don't need to know which it is. You just feel its warmth, carried on the smoke and sunlight that seem to pulse together as one. The morning has fully bloomed. The Hadza move like the forest itself, quiet, efficient, and entirely alive. You breathe, tasting dust, honey, and ash, and for a fleeting moment, everything feels perfectly balanced. Human, earth, and air in easy conversation. The sun is still low, but the air already carries a dry warmth that clings to your skin like a quiet hand. Smoke threads upward from several fires, each one marking a family's small territory within the camp's easy circle. The Hadza have no fences, no markers beyond habit and comfort, yet everyone knows where to sit, where to cook, where to rest. It's a social choreography made visible only through repetition and instinct. A woman squats beside her fire, scraping blackened tubers from the embers. She tosses one to you without looking up. Its charred skin crumbles at your touch, releasing a steam so fragrant and rich it makes your stomach tighten. You blow away the ash, bite, and taste the faint bitterness that quickly fades into sweetness. This is makalanga, the morning root dug before dawn, roasted in patience. It's never glamorous, but it fills the belly and warms the breath. Nearby, two boys grind baobab seeds between smooth stones. their motions slow but confident. The seeds, dry and chalky, will be mixed with water to make a cloudy drink that tastes faintly of citrus and dust. A woman laughs at their effort, shakes her head, and adds her own rhythm to their grinding with a stick, tapping softly against a calabash. The sound becomes part of the morning's music. Stone against stone, wood on gourd, a single cough, a low hum, the crack of fire. You glance up, and the light has changed again. It spills sideways through the acacias, scattering long shadows over the ground. Dust sparkles like small lost stars before vanishing into air. The forest doesn't rush. It just keeps unfolding. You shift on your haunches, brush the grit from your knees, and feel the texture of the soil, fine as flour where it's shaded, coarse and hot where the sun touches it. One man stretches beside the fire, still chewing his breakfast. His bow lies across his lap, unstrung but never far. Every movement feels deliberate, unhurried, yet you sense that if he stood, he'd be ready to vanish into the trees within seconds. He gestures toward a girl carrying a bundle of tubers wrapped in leaves, teasing her with a phrase you don't quite catch. She answers back with mock scolding, and laughter ripples through the group. There's no hierarchy here, no chief, no single voice in command. Leadership moves like smoke, visible only in the moment it's needed. Decisions form in conversation, dissolve in silence, and reform the next day. It's an equality earned by necessity, not theory. Everyone contributes, or no one eats. A small dog trots by, tail wagging lazily. It pauses near you, nose twitching, then curls up in the dust as if it has nowhere else to be. The Hadza treat their dogs as companions, not property. They hunt together, sleep near the fires, and share whatever scraps remain. It's an old alliance, one that predates even memory. You reach to scratch its neck and it sighs, stretching in the warmth. A breeze carries the scent of roasted meat, faint but distinct. Someone has cooked a small bird caught the night before, a francolin perhaps. The skin crisps over flame, and fat spits into the fire with a quiet hiss. The smell makes you salivate despite the simplicity of the meal. There is no seasoning here, only smoke and hunger, yet somehow it's enough. A man named Laemb, or so someone murmurs, sits across from you, holding a gourd of baobab pulp. He offers it with a nod. The drink is thick, tangy, slightly gritty. It coats your tongue and leaves a cool aftertaste, a reminder that water itself must often be coaxed from trees and roots. He grins at your hesitant sip, teeth bright against his dark skin, and says something that makes the others chuckle. You don't know the words, but you understand the tone. Amusement, inclusion, the warmth of being teased gently by people who have already decided you're harmless. The camp grows livelier. Women sort through foraged berries, separating the ripe ones from those too sour to eat. Their fingers move quickly, stained red and purple. Children hover nearby, pretending not to wait for the leftovers. The berries are called tindi, small and firm, tasting like a cross between grape and dust. A few drop onto the ground, instantly claimed by ants, the endless cleaning crew of the bush. You hear a rhythmic tapping from behind, a man striking a hollow log. It's not a performance, not really. It's communication, a signal that others nearby might hear. The Hadza camps are often scattered across the landscape, each a short walk apart, and sound carries through the dry air better than distance allows. A message of abundance, perhaps tubers found, honey waiting, no danger near. The sun slides higher, and the colours change again, shadows shorten, birds retreat to the shade. The fires burn lower, reduced to coals and grey ash. Someone stirs one idly with a stick, uncovering a cluster of glowing embers. From beneath, a faint crackle, sweet potatoes roasting in secret. The man plucks one out, juggling it between his palms, muttering a word that sounds halfway between complaint and laughter. You take another bite of your root and feel its dryness cling to your teeth. There's comfort in the monotony, in the knowledge that this has been breakfast for millennia. The Hadza have been here for tens of thousands of years, longer than most cultures on Earth. No plough, no permanent structure, no written language, and yet everything works. The rhythm of hunt, gather, eat, rest, repeat, an elegant economy of simplicity. One lesser-known detail often surprises outsiders. The Hadza sometimes go days without cooking, surviving entirely on raw honey and fruit when the land provides in abundance. Their teeth, worn but strong, bear the signature of this sweet, fibrous diet. You can almost taste it. The resinous sting of wild nectar, the crunch of wax, the shock of sugar that's somehow both pure and smoky. A child offers you a small lump of honeycomb, its surface glistening in the sun. You hesitate only a moment before biting into it. The wax gives way with a soft pop, and warm honey floods your mouth. It tastes of sunlight and ash, of flowers and smoke. A bee leg sticks briefly to your lip, absurd and harmless. Someone laughs, shaking their head. You grin, sticky and content. The warmth settles deep into your muscles. The camp's noises mellow into a low hum, voices, fire, insects. You realize how quiet true life can be without the static of engines or electric buzz. Even laughter seems to rise and fade like wind through grass. A boy sits cross-legged near the ashes, carefully scraping a small arrowhead with a shard of metal. He's maybe 10 years old, focused and silent. His fingertips are stained with ochre and soot. Each scrape is deliberate, almost meditative. The adults don't intervene. Skill grows through imitation, not instruction. You watch him work, feeling the hypnotic pull of the repetition. Then, for no clear reason, someone begins to sing. It's a soft melody, rising from one voice and joined by another. No words, just sound, vowel and hum. It fills the air like dust, lingering, blending with the wind. You close your eyes and the rhythm moves through you. Breath, fire, heartbeat, insect hum, bird call, human song. When the song fades, the silence that follows feels heavier but not empty. It's the sound of rest of a camp, between hunger and motion. Breakfast is nearly done. Fires smolder, and the men stretch again, restless in the way of hunters who measure the day by its opportunities. One woman notices your distant gaze and laughs softly. She says something quick and rhythmic, and the others nod, smiling. You don't set to understand the words, but a tone feels maternal, amused. Something like, "Don't set drift too far. The forest has a way of keeping what it touches." And she's right. Even the air seems to draw you in. You glance at the tree line. Acacias thin and twisted, baobabs swollen like old gods. Beyond them lies a mosaic of rock and shadow where the next meal waits unseen. The hunters will go soon, boughs gleaming, muscles ready. But for now the forest breathes around you, full of secrets and honey. By mid-morning the sun sits high enough to flatten every shadow into the earth. The air hums with heat. A shimmer bends the distant trees, and the horizon feels more like a mirage than a line. The women stay behind in the camp, busy with roots and children, while the men gather their gear. It is time to hunt. Leather creaks as bows are unstrung and tested. Each man carries his own, shaped from the hard wood of Commiphora, carved and polished by hand. The arrows are bundled with care, each one slightly different, each one made for a purpose, barbed for birds, long for antelope, short for small game. The fletching is done with guinea fowl feathers, tied neatly with sinew that still smells faintly of smoke and blood. You hold one of the arrows when a man offers it to you. It feels impossibly light, almost fragile, yet the tip gleams with dull iron. You trace the faint smear of dark resin near the edge, the poison. It's called Acocanthera, drawn from a plant whose milky sap can kill an animal within minutes. The hunters handle it casually, their fingers steady. They've done this 1,000 times. A murmur passes through the group as they begin to move. No announcement, no ritual words, just a gentle gathering of intention. They walk barefoot, the dust rising only in whispers. The forest ahead looks sparse but alive, the thin acacias hiding more life than they reveal. Birds dart in short arcs. Cicadas thrum like invisible machinery. Somewhere, a baboon barks its irritation. You follow, at first trying to step as quietly as they do, but the ground betrays you. Twigs snap under your weight, leaves crunch. One of the men glances back with a grin that's neither judgment nor surprise, only amusement. He presses a finger to his lips and points to his feet. You nod, trying again. This time your steps find rhythm, lighter, softer, the silence feels earned. The Hadza hunters move in a loose line, spread wide enough that each man can see his own space but close enough for hand signals. Their communication is simple, gestures, nods, a click of the tongue. Words would only scare the forest. You can tell by their posture when they sense something, when the air changes, when the faintest sound pulls their attention tight. A small bird startles from a bush, wings flashing white and brown. One man's bow lifts almost reflexively, string pulled back in a fluid arc. The arrow leaves without sound. The flight is a single breath, and then, thud, the bird drops, silent again. No celebration, no exclamation, just calm efficiency. The man retrieves it, tucks it into his belt, and keeps walking. You notice how they pause often, not from fatigue but from listening. The world is full of cues. A rustle too low to be wind, the faint smell of dung that means zebra passed not long ago, the faint tremor of dust still settling. It's an awareness that feels supernatural until you realize it's simply practice, sharpened by need. As you walk, the temperature shifts. The heat bears down, but under each tree there's a pocket of cool air that feels like mercy. You wipe your forehead with the back of your hand, feeling grit cling to your skin. The taste of dust creeps into your mouth. You sip from a small gourd, the water warm but welcome. One hunter suddenly raises his hand, and everyone freezes. The air thickens. You hear nothing at first, then a faint rustle, rhythmic. The man crouches, motioning for you to stay low. Through the sparse brush you spot a small group of impala grazing. They move elegantly, tails flicking, ears twitching at every whisper of sound. The hunters fan out, steps nearly invisible. Bows rise in slow unison. You can hear your own heartbeat too loud for this place. The first arrow flies, then a second, a third. The impala scatter, hooves drumming against dry soil, a burst of life against stillness. One collapses after a short sprint, struck cleanly through the side. The silence that follows feels almost sacred. No one cheers. They move to the fallen animal with calm reverence. The lead hunter places a hand on its flank, murmuring something soft, perhaps a thanks, perhaps a prayer. They begin to work quickly, expertly. Knives cut through hide and sinew with practiced ease. The meat is divided right there, bones snapped clean. Nothing is wasted. Flesh, organs, tendons, even blood are valued. The liver is eaten raw, passed around in small pieces, shared in quiet respect. You hesitate when the piece reaches you. The man offering it tilts his head, smiling faintly. It's not a test, it's hospitality. You take it. The taste is metallic and warm, unfamiliar but not unpleasant. It feels like participation in something much older than words. As they finish, the men wrap the meat in leaves, binding it with strips of bark. It will be smoked later back at camp. The remains are covered lightly with soil, returned to the ground. A few bones are left out deliberately, for hyenas, or perhaps for balance. The Hadza see no boundary between their lives and the rest of the bush. Everything feeds everything else. The walk back is slower. The tension is drained, replaced by a soft satisfaction. The forest feels different now. Less watchful, more companionable. The men speak again, low and musical. One hums a short rhythm, joined by another. The song is about the hunt, you think, or maybe just about the day itself. Sweat cools on your neck as the breeze picks up. You feel the coarse texture of your shirt sticking to your back, the dust turning your skin the same muted brown as the earth. The smell of meat lingers faintly on your hands. Above, vultures circle lazily, already sensing what's been left behind. You glance at the horizon, flat, endless, broken only by the silhouettes of baobabs. Their trunks gleam pale grey under the sun, their limbs like skeletal fingers reaching toward the blue. Somewhere beneath one of them, honey waits. The thought brings a flicker of excitement to the group. Tomorrow, perhaps, the hunt will be for sweetness instead of blood. But even here in this quiet return, you notice something curious. Each man carries a small pouch tied to his belt, holding slivers of euphorbia bark, a natural antiseptic used for arrow wounds or insect bites. It's not just weaponry they carry, it's medicine, knowledge, and self-reliance compact and unspoken. When the camp comes into view, smoke rising once more in calm spirals, laughter greets them from the women. Children run to meet the hunters, eyes wide, voices bright. The meat is displayed briefly, admired, then set aside for roasting. The air fills with sound again, crackling fire, chatter, the faint plucking of a stringed instrument made from a gourd and sinew. Someone hands you another piece of root, still warm from the ashes. The taste feels richer now, somehow deeper, as if flavored by the hunt itself. You chew slowly, watching as the men sit, relax, and begin to retell the day, not with boasting, but with humor and quiet pride. One mimics your cautious steps from earlier, over-exaggerating each noise. The camp erupts in laughter. It's a gentle teasing, but behind it there's warmth. You're part of the story now, even briefly. A figure in their day's rhythm. The forest watches, and for a moment you forget entirely where you come from. By late afternoon, the air changes. The shimmer of heat softens. The light grows less sharp, as if the sun itself is exhaling. Shadows lengthen again, drawn gently across the ground. The camp is quieter now. The meat smokes slowly on wooden racks over low fires, scenting everything with a deep sweet haze that clings to your hair and skin. You wander beyond the camp's edge, where the grass grows higher and the soil shifts underfoot from fine dust to harder earth. The hunter's footprints are still visible, layered with the tracks of animals that have crossed since dawn. Each print tells a story, and for the Hadza it's a language spoken without sound. A man crouches nearby, tracing a line in the dirt with a stick. He points, murmurs, then looks up to see if you follow. The print before you is faint, no deeper than a fingerprint pressed into dough. You might have missed it entirely, but he gestures again. There, the curve of a hoof, the tiny scatter of disturbed pebbles, the angle of the shadow where the soil dips. It's the mark of a dik-dik, a tiny antelope that can vanish into scrub as quickly as thought. He shows you another print, rounder, softer, dotted with claw marks. Hyena. The freshness of it makes the air feel suddenly alert. The Hadza man grins, amused at your stiffening posture, and says something that sounds like muea, meaning the animal has already moved far away. You breathe out, the tension dissolving as quickly as it came. Farther along you notice a line of small holes in the sand, each one spaced perfectly apart. He taps one lightly with his finger. Nodding, Scorpion burrows. You feel a slow prickle in your feet and decide to step a little more carefully. The forest teaches through proximity. Above, the sky burns pale blue with streaks of white cloud drifting east. The air tastes metallic, dry. You can almost hear the weight of silence between insect calls. When the breeze shifts, it carries the smell of smoke from the camp, now faint and comforting like a memory already fading. The man gestures for you to follow. His pace is unhurried, but his eyes scan constantly. Every movement of grass, every faint stir of dust. He stops suddenly, crouches again, and motions you closer. There's a patch of disturbed earth ahead, fresh dung still glistening. He touches it, rubs a bit between his fingers, then wipes it on a leaf, Without a word, he points north. You follow his gaze and see the faint outline of hooves leading away. He whispers Doro land, a large antelope, heavy, cautious, hard to catch. The tracks head toward a shallow valley where the soil darkens and small acacias grow close together. He rises and begins to walk, each step soundless. As you descend into the valley, the air cools. You hear the low, steady drone of insects, and something else, a faint rhythmic sound like slow breathing. The eland, perhaps, though you can't see it. The hunter motions again, this time for stillness. He kneels, sets his bow against the ground, and waits. The patience is immense. The entire world seems to balance on that quiet. Minutes stretch into long, elastic silence. Your legs ache, your throat feels dry, and still he waits. The only movement is a flick of wind through grass, the tremble of a leaf as an unseen insect lands. Then a shift in shadow. The eland steps into view, huge and deliberate, its hide marked by faint scars. It lowers its head to graze, unaware. The man's eyes narrow, but he doesn't reach for his bow. Not this time. He studies it for a moment, then turns slightly, whispering, "Sawa, enough. The hunt today has already fed everyone. The animal lives, and the knowledge of its path will serve tomorrow." The restraint feels profound, this quiet balance between need and reverence. You realize how much trust it takes to live this way. The Hadzabe know the land will give again, in its own time. To take more than necessary would break that rhythm. It's not philosophy, it's survival wrapped in humility. The walk back feels lighter. The man speaks now, describing what you've seen, though you catch only fragments. His voice rises and falls in rhythm with the landscape. And even without translation, it feels like story. Each phrase ends with a soft click, musical and gentle. You listen more to the sound than the meaning. At one point, he stops near a tree where the bark has been peeled away. He points to the exposed wood and explains, "This is the comifera tree again, but here its resin is used not for bows but for incense." He scrapes a small lump, lights it, and holds it near your face. The smoke is thin, sharp, citrusy, stinging your nose slightly before fading to sweetness. It's used, he says, to keep mosquitoes away and to honor the spirits of the hunt. The sun dips lower, painting everything in copper and amber. The light catches the fine hairs on your arms, turning them gold. Dust floats lazily in the air, catching fire in the light before settling again. The hunter gestures toward a distant ridge, where a single barb stands apart. It's said to mark the resting place of an ancestor, a tree that was once a person, or so the stories go. You nod, unsure if he means it literally or not. Either way, it feels true. A moment of humor arrives unexpectedly. You stumble over a root, barely catching yourself before falling. The man bursts out laughing, loud and honest. He pats your shoulder, still chuckling, and says something that sounds like, "Even the roots are watching your steps." You laugh too, though a little breathlessly. The sound echoes between the trees, startling a bird into flight. When the camp comes back into view, the smell of meat and tubers greets you like a warm blanket. The fires burn low now, ringed by tired laughter and slow conversation. Someone waves you over, handing you a hollow gourd filled with a sweet mixture of honey and baobab pulp. It's cool and grainy, the taste like citrus dipped in smoke. The hunter who guided you sits nearby, his bow laid across his knees. He begins to tell a story, half in Hadza, half in gestures, about a man who once tracked an elephant for 3 days only to find it waiting at his camp when he returned. The group laughs, shaking their heads, and you find yourself joining in though you only catch fragments. The story isn't meant to be understood word by word, it's meant to be felt. As the last light drains from the horizon, the dust at your feet turns grey, blending with shadow. The fire's glow paints faces in orange, the smoke lifting like memory into the darkening air. You look down at your own hands, still marked with dust, and think of the prints in the soil, the language of movement, patience and quiet skill that the Hadza read as easily as breath. It's a world written entirely in tracks and echoes, in the knowledge of what passed and what may come again. You feel the peace of that simplicity settle deep into you. Nothing to chase, nothing to own, only the endless conversation between foot and ground. Evening has not yet arrived, but the air already carries that subtle heaviness that means the day is ready to fold in on itself. The sun hangs lower now, spilling amber light through the thorn trees and scattering long fingers of shadow across the clearing. The smoke from the cooking fires rises in lazy ribbons, and laughter drifts like drifting ash. The hunter's return has transformed the camp. Energy hums through the air, a quiet excitement woven with the scent of roasted meat. You sit near one of the fires as the first strips of antelope begin to char. The fat sizzles against the wood, hissing softly, and a faint sweetness rides on the smoke. The Hadza don't marinate, don't season, don't even salt. The meat tastes purely of itself, wild and clean, with a faint edge of bitterness from the flames. Someone passes you a piece, still too hot to hold. You juggle it between your fingers, drawing a chorus of amused chuckles from the others. One woman offers a folded leaf to use as a plate. The gesture feels both casual and ancient, the kind of courtesy that has existed forever. She nods toward the fire, indicating you should eat. The piece you hold is tough, but the flavor runs deep, primal. You chew slowly, the warmth of it filling your chest. Hunger fades, replaced by a calm satisfaction that feels earned rather than granted. Children edge closer to the fires, eyes bright, waiting for their turn. The men carve carefully, cutting small portions for each family. There's no hierarchy, no first rights. Everyone eats, everyone shares. When meat is scarce, the portions shrink, but the ritual of dividing remains unchanged. You watch as one boy tries to sneak an extra bite, only to be caught by a chorus of laughing women. He grins, unashamed, a tiny outlaw of appetite. The light keeps shifting, turning faces bronze, then red, then almost silver as the smoke thickens. The camp hums with talk, soft, rhythmic, overlapping. The Hadza language flows like wind through reeds, sharp consonants softened by clicks, vowels stretching like laughter. You don't understand a word, but the tone alone tells a full story. Jokes, teases, small disagreements that end in more laughter. A man with a scar across his temple gestures toward the hunt's leader, retelling the moment the impala fell. He pantomimes the draw of the bow, exaggerating the strength of his shot, earning good-natured jeers from the rest. Then another interrupts, mimicking the first man's stumble during the chase, tripping over an invisible root. The camp erupts in laughter, its storytelling at its purest, spontaneous, communal, full of self-deprecation. You notice that the Hadza never tell stories sitting still. Even in rest they move, their hands shaping air, their bodies swaying with rhythm, voices overlapping until the whole thing becomes more music than tale. It's history performed rather than recited, a living echo of what happened only hours ago. Behind the laughter, the forest keeps its own rhythm. Crickets start their slow, steady drumming, and the air cools by a single degree, barely noticeable, but your skin senses it first. The acacias whisper overhead, their dry leaves rattling like beads. The smell of meat, dust, and honey fills the night's first breath. A girl offers you a bowl made from a gourd. Inside is a mixture of honey and crushed berries, streaked with wild fat from the hunt. You take a cautious sip. It's shockingly rich, both sweet and smoky. She giggles at your expression, then scoops a fingerful herself, licking it clean before running off toward her friends. There's a rhythm of giving here that never feels forced. The Hadza share instinctively, as though the act itself sustains them as much as the food. In a place where every day depends on the whims of weather and luck, generosity becomes a form of security. If you share today, someone will share tomorrow. You think of how fragile such balance would be anywhere else, and yet here it feels effortless. As night approaches, the hunters begin to hum a low chant. The song isn't formal, it rises naturally from talk and laughter, the melody shifting as each voice joins. Some tap sticks against gourds, others clap in loose rhythm. The fire crackles in counterpoint, a percussion older than language. The chant grows softer, settling into a single repeating line. It's not about the kill but the sharing, about how the forest gives and takes. You catch one word, epimen, the same you heard in the morning. Tonight it feels like gratitude, a quiet ritual of thanks wrapped in sound. You look around at the faces lit by flame, calm, content, eyes bright with reflection. Each flicker of light carves a small story in their features. One man sharpens an arrowhead, another braids a cord of sinew. A woman hums softly as she feeds a small child, rocking in time with the chant. The firelight plays along the curved surfaces of the gourds, the worn beads, the polished bows. Everything glows. Even the dust seems to shimmer in rhythm with the flames. It's as if the entire camp breathes together. Inhale, exhale, warmth, stillness. One factual detail about the Hadza, rarely mentioned, is their sense of humor toward the animals they hunt. They joke that the impala are arrogant, that the warthog is the bush's fool, that the honey-guyed bird is a gossip who always tattles on the bees. You hear snippets of this now in the conversation, laughter rising again when someone imitates a warthog's snort with comical precision. It's a small reminder that even survival here has space for play. As the night deepens, you notice how hunger gives way to storytelling, and storytelling gives way to silence. One by one, the conversations dim. The fires settle into embers, glowing like constellations scattered on the ground. The children lie curled beside their mothers. The men stretch out on their backs, and the smoke thins into the wide darkness. You lie back too, your head resting on folded arms. The stars above are brutal in their clarity, thousands of them spilling across the sky in dense clusters. The Milky Way looks close enough to touch, a pale river flowing from horizon to horizon. You think about how many generations have looked at this same sky from this same patch of earth. The air cools further, brushing over your skin like water. The smell of wood and meat lingers. Somewhere beyond the firelight, something moves. A hyena, perhaps, its laughter faint and echoing. No one stirs. The Hadza know the night sounds by heart, and they distinguish danger from music instinctively. Your eyes grow heavy. The voices fade to murmurs, the fire to coals, the stars to a slow, gentle blur. Before sleep finds you, you catch one last sound, the low hum of a man singing to himself, a tune about the chase, the sharing and the endless conversation between hunger and gratitude. Morning comes gently, as it always does here. The first light touches your eyelids through the thin canopy of leaves, and the air carries the mixed scent of damp soil, smoke, and fruit. Somewhere nearby, a baby coughs, followed by a mother's soft shushing. The men are still asleep, sprawled near the dead fires, but the women are already moving. You hear the faint rasp of digging sticks against the ground, the hush of voices calling to one another as they prepare to leave. You rise slowly, brushing dust from your skin, and stretch in the cool shade. The sky glows pale gold, still washed with the faintest pink. The women move in a small cluster, chatting, laughing, adjusting their hides and baskets. Their rhythm is different from the men's, steady, grounded, full of easy conversation. Each carries a digging stick, polished from years of use, its tip hardened by fire. The baskets, woven from grass and bark, swing gently against their hips. One woman waves for you to join them, her smile easy, teasing. You nod and fall into step behind her. The ground feels cool underfoot, and dew still clings to the grass. The women move through the bush without hesitation, following paths so subtle you would have thought them random. Yet every turn leads toward a memory of food, a fruiting tree, a patch of edible tubers, a stand of baobabs heavy with pods. The first stop comes near a low rise of earth. The women kneel, using their digging sticks with practiced grace. The sound is rhythmic: scrape, tap, pry, lift. The soil breaks open, revealing thick roots, pale and fragrant. They clean them quickly, tossing them into baskets. The tubers are called shumako, fibrous but filling, one of the Hadza's most dependable foods. You take a turn digging, awkwardly at first. The stick glances off a rock and bounces back, earning a small burst of laughter. The woman beside you shakes her head, demonstrating with a few quick shore movements. You mimic her rhythm until the earth yields one of the roots. She nods approval, a silent compliment more satisfying than words. As the morning warms, the group spreads wider. Some climb gently sloping rocks to look for berries. Others fan out toward the watercourse where fruit trees grow. Every movement is a memory, every discovery a small celebration. You hear the sharp, musical clicks of their conversation carried across the bush, laughter bursting between words like bird calls. The forest here feels softer than it did during the hunt, less tense, more domestic. Bees drone lazily among blossoms. Lizards flick across sun-warmed stones. You can smell the sweetness of fruit before you see it. Small, plum-colored berries hanging in clusters. The women pick them fast, dropping handfuls into their baskets, pausing occasionally to eat a few with unhurried pleasure. The juice stains their fingers dark red, gleaming in the sun. They joke that if your lips aren't purple by noon, you haven't worked hard enough. A girl no older than 12 calls out from behind a thicket. She's found a nest of guinea fowl eggs. The others hurry over, inspecting the find with exaggerated seriousness. After a brief debate, half laughter, half ritual, they take a few and bury the rest again. The logic is simple: leave enough for the birds to return. The Hadza understand abundance not as what is taken, but as what is left behind. You sit beneath an acacia for a moment, feeling the texture of bark against your back. The shade is sparse but cool enough to rest. The air carries the faint hum of insects, the occasional burst of chatter from the women. You can taste dust on your lips, mingled with the faint sweetness of berries. A breeze stirs the tall grass, brushing your ankles with a soft hiss. One woman passes you a handful of baobab seeds. She cracks them open between stones and offers you the white pulp inside. It's powdery, tart, and surprisingly refreshing. The baobab is the Hadza's silent ally. Its fruit, bark, and leaves all useful. In lean seasons, its pulp replaces water. In wet months, it becomes dessert. She smiles at your expression when the sourness hits your tongue and says a word that sounds like ngwanza, meaning both sour and alive. As the baskets fill, the talk turns to quieter subjects: children, the weather, small disputes, plans for the evening meal. The tone rises and falls with the work, punctuated by laughter that comes easily and often. You notice how the women move together like parts of one mind, never needing to coordinate aloud. When one grows tired, another takes her place. When a child cries, 3 hands reach out before the mother even turns. At one point, the group pauses near a tree buzzing with bees. You remember yesterday's honey hunt and expect them to move away, but instead one woman picks up a smoking twig and waves it gently toward the hive's opening. The bees swirl but don't attack. She reaches in, calm as if plucking fruit, and pulls out a small piece of comb heavy with golden honey. She tastes it, then passes it around. You hesitate, still remembering the sting of fear from the day before, but she insists. The honey drips warm and wild down your fingers, tasting faintly of flowers and smoke. They rest in the shade again, and you realize how little they rush. Time here isn't something to fill, but something to inhabit. Work, laughter, rest, they blend seamlessly, one rolling into the next. You think of how foreign this rhythm would feel anywhere else. How strange it would be to stop because the light has changed, not because a clock has told you to. A lesser-known detail about the Hadza emerges in moments like this. They have no fixed word for yesterday or tomorrow, as time is often counted by seasons and events rather than days. The language bends toward the present, the immediate, the lived. The result is a kind of peace you can feel but barely describe, a looseness of thought that matches the looseness of the air. As the sun begins to lean westward, the baskets grow heavy. The women start their walk back, balancing loads on their heads, posture straight, eyes forward. The chatter softens into a steady hum. Children walk beside them, dragging sticks through the dust to draw long lines that twist and cross each other like invisible paths. The return is quieter than the departure, but no less alive. You notice something small and endearing. One of the women plucks a single wildflower, tucks it into the strap of her hide garment, and forgets it almost immediately. The gesture is effortless, purely aesthetic, as though beauty were just another form of nourishment. As camp comes into sight, the men are already awake, sitting in the shade, mending arrows or sharing the last bits of roasted meat. The children run ahead to announce the return, their voices bright and quick. The women set their baskets down near the fires, shaking loose bits of earth and leaf. The smell of fresh roots fills the air, sharp and earthy. Everyone gathers again. Some of the berries are mashed into a pulp to mix with honey. Others are eaten as they are. The roots will be roasted later, turned slowly in the ashes until they split open with steam. The simple abundance feels like a feast. As evening approaches, laughter drifts easily again. The men tease the women about how long they were gone. The women counter by mocking how little the men achieved while waiting. It's good-natured, balanced, timeless. The sky glows orange, the air thick with the smell of cooking and dust. You sit back, content, watching how every motion seems to belong to the land itself. The rhythm of gathering, of returning, of living close to what sustains you. There's nothing hurried, nothing wasted. Only the soft certainty that for now everything needed has been found. The next morning begins with brightness so pure it almost hums. The air feels cleaner after a night of faint drizzle, and the dust has settled into a smooth crust over the ground. The camp stirs early. A few of the men stand near the fires, gesturing toward the hills beyond the baobabs, where the honey-guide birds have been calling since dawn. Their sharp whistles sound almost mocking, nature's alarm clock for anyone willing to listen. The Hadza treat these birds as both companions and conspirators. The honey guide doesn't make honey, it finds it. It flits from branch to branch, calling insistently until someone follows. In return for leading humans to the hive, the bird gets its share of wax and larvae when the honey is taken. The partnership is ancient, older than speech, built entirely on mutual understanding and appetite. You watch as one man, lean, quiet, eyes bright with anticipation, picks up his bow and a smoking bundle of grass. Others fall in behind him, carrying gourds, ropes, and the long wooden torches they'll use to calm the bees. The women call after them with mock warnings about stings and swollen faces, their laughter carrying through the morning air. You join the hunters as they step into the bush. The sun, not yet fierce, hangs low and orange above the ridgeline. The forest smells sharp, a mix of wild herbs and damp wood. Dewdrops cling to your ankles as you walk. Every few paces the honey guide's chirp sounds ahead, loud, impatient, demanding. The men respond with low whistles, answering as though to a friend. The first hive they find sits deep within a hollow baobab. You can hear the bees before you see them, a low, resonant hum that vibrates in your chest. The tree itself rises like a pillar, its bark smooth and grey, its base wide enough to cradle 10 men. The opening is small, about the size of a closed fist, but the air around it pulses with golden movement. The lead hunter Gudo tests the bark with his knife, tapping it softly. He murmurs something to the others, then begins to climb. There is no rope, no harness, just calloused feet pressing into shallow grooves carved by generations of hands and toes. The muscles in his back flex and gleam as he ascends, his torch smouldering below. The scent of the burning grass rises. a mix of sweetness and sharp smoke. From below you can hear the hum deepen. The bees shift in a wave, restless. Gudo reaches the hole, wedging his knee against the trunk, and holds the torch close. Smoke seeps inward, curling into the hollow like breath. The bees emerge in a flurry, angry, dazzling, chaotic, but they scatter instead of striking. Gudo waits until the sound softens, then reaches in with bare hands. It's impossible not to flinch, but he moves calmly, gently breaking the combs free one by one. Golden honey drips down his wrist, sticky and shining in the sun. He lowers the pieces carefully to the men waiting below, who catch them in leaves. The air smells sweet and burnt all at once, like caramel left too long on fire. You take a piece when offered, holding it gingerly. The comb is warm from the hive, and when you bite, the honey floods your mouth with flavor so rich it feels unreal. Wildflowers, smoke, and a faint bitterness that lingers on the tongue. It's unlike anything made by human hands. A bee lands on your forearm, crawls lazily, and flies off again. The men laugh softly at your expression, then pass the honey around. They smear some on their arms to soothe old stings, save some for the children, and pour the rest into a calabash. A few pieces of wax and lava are tossed aside for the honey-guide bird, which watches from a branch head cocked. When the offering comes, it swoops down, tearing greedily at the wax before vanishing into the treetops. A fair trade, completed with ceremony older than memory. They find 2 more hives before noon. Each climb feels the same, careful, dangerous, thrilling. The sun climbs higher, pressing heat into your skin, the kind that seems to hum inside your bones. Sweat runs down your temples, salt mixing with dust. You wipe it away and taste the faint grit of earth on your lips. One of the men jokes that bees sting outsiders more than locals because they recognize fear. He grins as he says it, half serious, half teasing. You force a laugh, pretending not to glance nervously at the swarms circling a nearby tree. He chuckles, shaking his head, muttering something that sounds like Misengundelika, roughly meaning the stranger is learning. The work is slow but unhurried. Each hive yields enough for the camp, a sweetness that will be savored for days. The men pack the combs carefully, wrapping them in large leaves and tying them with vines. The honey drips through their fingers, glinting like amber in the sunlight. A few smear it on their faces, joking that it keeps them young. The laughter carries easily, echoing off the trees, mingling with the buzzing chorus around them. As they walk back, you notice how the air grows thicker with heat. The shadows shrink, the ground radiates warmth. The smell of honey clings to you, heavy and golden. You can taste it in the back of your throat, sticky and sweet. The sound of the honey guide fades behind you, replaced by the low drone of cicadas. Back in camp, the arrival of the honey sets off a small celebration. Children gather instantly, eyes wide, hands outstretched. The women cheer, clapping softly, and the men set down their loads with mock exhaustion. The air turns joyous. Honey is not merely food, it's delight, luxury, reward. The combs are distributed in the same careful fairness as meat. Each family receives a share. Some of the wax is melted into small candles, though most will be eaten directly. The honey glows in the sunlight, thick and golden, dripping onto the dust. You watch as the children scoop it up with their fingers, licking the sweetness from their hands. One woman mixes a portion with baobab pulp, stirring until it thickens into a paste the texture of soft clay. She smears it on her child's face, laughing when he scowls. It's medicine as well as treat, protection against coughs and sore throats. The day slides by in a haze of warmth and sugar. The fires crackle softly, their smoke rising pale against the deepening blue sky. The air vibrates with quiet contentment. People nap in the shade, bellies full, flies lazily circling the remains of the feast. Later, as the light turns golden, the bees return in gentle patrols, drawn by the scent of spilled honey. They hover near your face, harmless now, and drift away again. You listen to their low hum, the sound of work, of persistence, of the endless exchange between danger and sweetness. You can feel your eyelids grow heavy in the slow rhythm of it all. The forest breathes warmth through its leaves. The camp breathes quiet through its laughter. The bees hum, the fire pops. The world hums softly on its axis. One small, lesser-known habit of the Hadza comes to life here. They sometimes press honey into the cracks of dried wood or old gourds, letting it ferment slightly under the sun. The result is a faintly fizzy drink, barely sweet, carrying the tang of wild yeast. Someone passes you a gourd with a grin, and you take a cautious sip. It's strange, half honey, half smoke, and entirely alive. The laughter grows, and the last of the honey is tucked away. You lie back on your elbows, staring up at the barbed canopy glowing like bronze in the low light. The bees circle above, patient and eternal, their work never done. You close your eyes, feeling the hum settle inside you like a second heartbeat. Night descends softly here, without hurry, as though the world prefers to exhale before darkness takes hold. The last blush of sunlight catches the tall grass, turning every blade into a thread of fire. The air cools, heavy with the mixed perfume of roasted roots, wood smoke, and faint sweetness from the day's honey. The men sit in a loose circle around the central fire, boughs lying beside them, arrows fanned out to dry. The women move quietly at the edges, arranging food, tending coals, settling children into blankets of hide. You sit close enough to feel the warmth against your shins. Sparks rise in tiny constellations, vanishing as quickly as they appear. The forest beyond is alive but calm, crickets singing their layered harmonies, the occasional crack of branches where some unseen creature moves. The sky spreads vast and crowded with stars. You can almost hear their silence. A woman stirs the ashes near your feet, revealing roasted tubers that split open in a puff of steam. The smell is earthy, almost nutty. She passes you one with a nod. The skin peels easily. The inside glows faintly orange in the firelight. You bite, the sweetness grounding you in the moment. Around you, conversation begins. Not loud, not structured, but flowing easily like water over stone. The men recount the day's honey gathering. Each adds his version, and soon it turns comic. One mimics the bee's furious buzzing, flapping his hands wildly until everyone bursts into laughter. A child giggles so hard she falls onto her side, clutching her ribs. The sound is contagious, bubbling through the group until even the quietest elders smile into the fire. Someone begins to hum a melody you've never heard, low and steady, as if to anchor the laughter. The others join in one by one. It isn't a song of performance. It's conversation set to rhythm. The hum rises and dips, folding around the night's stillness. A drumbeat forms, simple and slow, tapped on an empty gourd. The fire crackles in time. The Hadza have no written music, but they have songs for everything, for gathering roots, for climbing trees, for welcoming rain, for teasing the moon. The one you hear now feels like a song for rest. Its tone is warm, almost circular, looping back on itself in easy cycles. It asks nothing of you, it simply carries you along. You glance toward the edge of the firelight, where two women sit braiding sinew cords. Their fingers move quickly, twisting and pulling, eyes half-lidded with fatigue. The cords will become bowstrings by morning. Beside them, an elder leans against a log, telling a story to the children. His voice is raspy but confident. You catch fragments of the tale, a trickster hare who outsmarts a lion, a moral about patience disguised as mischief. The children gasp and giggle at each twist, wide-eyed, enraptured. As the story ends, one child asks a question. The elder answers with another story. This one quieter, about a time when humans and animals spoke the same language. He points toward the darkness where hyenas call faintly. His tone is neither fearful nor reverent, just factual, like explaining how the stars work. To the Hadza, The boundary between myth and reality is soft as smoke. The conversation drifts to talk of the stars themselves. Someone points to a cluster high above Ishoko, they say, the fire maker. Another points to a faint streak of light across the Milky Way, calling it the path of the honey guide. You tilt your head back, trying to follow their gestures. The sky feels enormous, layered, infinite. For a moment, you lose the sense of where you end and the night begins. A subtle humor ripples through the group when one man claims he can hear the stars whisper. The others laugh, shaking their heads, but no one mocks him. Someone teases that he must have eaten too much honey. Another suggests the bees have taken up residence in his ears. The laughter rolls easily, like a familiar song. When it fades, silence returns, not empty, but dense with shared comfort. You hear the sound of chewing, the rustle of hides, the sigh of someone settling deeper into the ground. The fire pops. A breeze shifts through the camp, carrying cool air from the valley. It smells faintly of damp grass and the distant riverbed. You notice how the firelight paints everything in shades of amber and shadow. Faces glow, eyes gleam, and every movement feels deliberate. One man adds another log, and the light flares up, briefly illuminating the camp's perimeter, the half-built shelters, the bundles of arrows, the scattered gourds glinting like fallen moons. Then the flames settle again, retreating to a steady pulse. Someone begins to speak softly, almost in a whisper, telling a memory rather than a story. It's about his father, who once followed a giraffe for 3 days without firing an arrow, content just to walk behind it, to learn its pace. The moral, unspoken but clear, patience is a form of strength. The listeners nod in understanding. You feel it too, the quiet weight of that truth settling into you. A lesser-known detail about Hadzabe evenings comes to light here. They often end with shared silence, not because there is nothing left to say, but because everything worth saying has already been woven into song and laughter. Stillness itself becomes the final conversation of the day. The fire burns lower, the stars sharpen against the deepening dark. The warmth at your legs fades to a comfortable cool. Someone stirs the embers, sending up a last shimmer of sparks. They rise, bright as the fireflies that begin to wink beyond the camp's edge. You lean back, feeling the rough ground beneath you, the faint stickiness of dried honey still on your fingers. The air hums gently with life, distant calls, insect songs, the heartbeat of the earth in slow tempo. The world has shrunk to the circle of light and widened to eternity all at once. A woman near you murmurs tundu, a word that means both good night and safe dreams. The sound settles over you like a soft blanket. You close your eyes, hearing the fire's slow crackle, the whisper of wind through grass, and the quiet laughter that lingers at the edge of sleep. For now, the forest is content. The people are fed. The night hums with stories already told. The first sign of the rain isn't the sound, but the scent. It comes before dawn, a sharp greenness carried low through the valley, cutting through the dry sweetness of last night's fires. You stir in your sleep and breathe it in, that sudden, almost electric promise. Somewhere in the distance, thunder murmurs, a voice so deep it feels like the ground is remembering something old. When you open your eyes, the sky has already changed. It isn't the clean blue of yesterday, but a soft leaden grey brushed with streaks of violet. The air feels swollen, heavy with waiting. The Hadzabe rise quietly, aware of the shift. They don't fear storms, they simply prepare for them, moving with calm precision. Fires are banked, gourds covered, hides pulled closer together to shield sleeping children. You sit up and feel the first cool wind pass over your face. It smells like wet bark and faraway lightning. The world darkens a little more, and the hum of insects fades to silence, as if even they are listening. When the rain finally arrives, it comes without warning, a curtain of silver that erases distance. The sound is immense, soft and violent at once, drumming on hides, trees, and open ground. You feel it soak through your hair, your clothes, your skin. The heat of the past days vanishes in seconds, replaced by something alive and cleansing. The Hadza laugh, some shouting playfully, their voices nearly swallowed by the downpour. One woman runs barefoot into the open, raising her arms and turning in circles, face lifted to the sky. Her laughter rings like bells. Children chase her, slipping in the mud, shrieking with delight. The men shout to one another through the roar, moving their bundles of arrows and bows beneath the sheltering trees. The fires hiss, smoke curling into nothing. You find a spot under a rock shelf where others have gathered. The shelter is barely enough for 4 people, but no one minds the closeness. The smell of wet earth is everywhere, thick, rich, almost edible. You can feel the rhythm of the rain reverberate through the stone, a steady heartbeat that blurs time. The man beside you holds out his palm, catching a few drops, then drinks them as though from a sacred spring. He grins, says something short and musical. Another laughs, replying with what sounds like "the sky is generous today." You don't need a translation. You can hear the gratitude in their tone. For a long time there's nothing but the sound of rain, endless, cleansing, patient. The trees sway in rhythm, their branches gleaming dark. The baobabs drink deeply through their wide roots, their bark turning almost black under the water. The scent of resin, soil, and damp grass mingles into something ancient, something that feels like the world's first memory. Eventually, the downpour eases into a lighter drizzle. The Hadza begin to move again. Some collect water in hollowed gourds. Others start to rebuild the fires with patient hands. The smoke that rises now is pale and thin, curling upward into the heavy air. You watch a woman kneel to strike a spark, her fingers deft even on soaked wood. The trick lies in patience, and the dry heart of the kindling kept from the rain. Soon small flames appear, stubborn and alive. Steam rises from the ground as the sun begins to pierce the clouds. Everything glows faintly, leaves glisten, puddles shimmer, and even the dust seems reborn. The air feels lighter, cleaner, as though the rain has washed sound itself. You take a deep breath, the freshness almost intoxicating. The Hadza move easily back into rhythm. Wet hides are spread to dry on rocks. Children help gather fallen branches, and laughter returns in small bursts. The women check their stores, making sure the berries and roots have stayed dry. The men scrape mud from their arrows, testing the bowstrings, already thinking ahead to tomorrow's hunt. There's a calm efficiency in all of it, a way of living that bends but never breaks. You realize that for the Hadza, weather isn't something to endure, it's something to move within. Storms aren't interruptions, they're part of the pattern. A lesser-known fact drifts into your thoughts as you watch them work during long rainy spells. The Hadza sometimes hunt fish and frogs that collect in temporary pools. The water transforms the land, and so they transform their habits. The adaptability is instinctive, not planned. You glance toward a shallow depression now turned pond, and see children already poking at it with sticks, testing for movement beneath the surface. By midday, the storm has passed entirely. The air hums again, this time with new life. Birds return in full voice, their calls sharp and bright. The scent of wet grass mingles with that of roasting roots. The world gleams under a clean sun, each droplet on each leaf a tiny mirror. The camp gathers near the largest fire. The warmth is welcome again after the chill of rain. Someone passes around roasted tubers, their skins blistered and smoky. Another offers a drink made from fermented honey, faintly fizzy, sweet, and earthy. It tastes like the smell of the storm itself. The conversation is light, contented. One man jokes that the rain chased away all lazy spirits, that anyone who slept too long this morning must now work twice as hard. The laughter that follows is deep and honest. The children mimic the thunder with loud stomps, pretending to summon more clouds. As the day fades, the ground still holds the storm's memory. Puddles reflect the last gold of sunlight. Insects hover above them like dust caught in amber. The air feels heavy again, not with rain this time, but with calm. You sit by the fire, drying your clothes, the warmth sinking deep into your skin. The smell of smoke mixes with the clean scent of wet earth. Around you, the Hadza talk in low tones, voices carrying the slow, measured cadence of people who know there's no need to rush. When darkness finally falls, the stars reappear one by one, their reflections trembling in the puddles like second skies. The night hums, cool and vast. A baby whimpers, then quiets as its mother hums an old song, the same melody from nights before, a lullaby made of rhythm more than words. You lie back, feeling the ground still damp beneath you, the warmth of the fire against your legs, the faint whisper of rain still hanging in the air. The forest exhales, alive and resting, balanced between motion and stillness. For a long moment, everything feels whole. The earth washed, the air pure, the people fed, the sky patient. And in that stillness you find yourself breathing in time with the land, calm and unhurried, as if your pulse belongs to it. Night comes fully now, unbroken and complete. The forest cools to a deep hush that feels older than sound itself. The last fire burns low, its orange heart pulsing slow and steady, as if breathing along with the sleepers who surround it. The air holds that faint sweetness of burnt wood mixed with the green breath of the baobabs. A few sparks drift upward, fading before they reach the first stars. You lie back against your rolled hide, feeling the solid press of the earth beneath you. The sky above is wide and perfect. The Milky Way arches like spilled dust, bright enough to throw the faintest shadow somewhere to your left. An infant sighs in sleep, followed by the soft croon of a mother's voice. Her song blends with the distant trill of insects until it becomes one seamless sound. The camp has folded inward after the rain, every shelter huddled in quiet order. Wet hides hang from branches to dry. The day's tools rest in careful piles. The scent of honey still lingers faintly from the feast. You can taste it if you breathe deeply enough, warm, sweet, edged with smoke. It clings to your fingers even after washing, a memory made tactile. Beyond the glow of the coals, a hyena calls once, long, uneven, almost human. No one moves. The Hadza do not fear such voices. They belong here too. The night has room for every sound. You listen, half waking, half falling, as another call answers farther off, then fades into distance. An elder's voice rises suddenly near the main fire, low and measured. He isn't telling a story tonight. He's giving thanks to the rain, to the honey guide, to the forest that kept them safe another day. The words roll like waves, repeating and fading, the meaning simple, even without translation. Gratitude doesn't need language. It needs only breath. A faint breeze moves through the clearing, stroking the fires back to life for a moment. The glow touches faces, shoulders, the gleam of beads and bracelets. You watch the light skip across them like memory, never lingering long. A child turns in sleep, one small hand still sticky with honey. The gesture makes you smile in the dark. Overhead, the stars seem closer than before. The air is so clear you can see the faint band of dust that drapes the horizon, the endless arc of the galaxy that's watched over these people longer than writing has existed. You realize that the Hadza have looked up at this same pattern for tens of thousands of years. Every ancestor, every song, every birth and fire and hunt, beneath the same indifferent brilliance. Continuity itself becomes comfort. The temperature drops slowly. You pull your wrap tighter, feeling the coarse fiber against your skin, the faint scent of smoke woven into it. The air smells of cooling stone and drying earth. Somewhere a frog calls near a puddle left from the storm, its rhythm steady and hypnotic. In the shadows, a small group of women whisper softly, their conversation fading into laughter. It isn't gossip exactly, just the low murmur of people at peace. Their voices rise and fall like embers flickering on unseen wind. As sleep presses closer, your mind drifts through the day's images, bees glinting in sunlight, the rich taste of honey, laughter under the rain, the shining wet faces of the children. Every memory blends with the next, until time feels circular, like the endless seasons that shape this land. You think of how the Hadza live without possessions, without clocks, without walls. How everything they need comes from the forest and returns to it. The simplicity no longer feels primitive. It feels complete. You begin to understand the quiet strength of a life measured not by accumulation but by belonging. The fire shifts, throwing a last burst of light that reveals the vast trunk of the nearest baobab. It stands monumental, patient, its bark rippled and scarred. In Hadza stories, the baobab is both ancestor and shelter, the tree that remembers all things. You look at its broad silhouette against the stars, and think that if trees could dream, this one would dream in centuries. A soft rain begins again, so fine you barely feel it, more mist than water. It cools your forehead, settles dust, and deepens the scent of earth. The camp doesn't stir. Sleep holds everyone now. The rain merely another layer of sound in the cradle of the forest. Your breathing slows to match it. Each exhale feels longer, softer, the weight of the day unwinding from your muscles. The sounds blur together. Frogs, rain, embers, the faint creak of wood. Even your thoughts start to move like the wind, slow, directionless, kind. The forest's rhythm wraps around you, steady, unbroken, endless. You are no longer visitor or watcher. You are part of the quiet. The night deepens, until time itself seems to dissolve. The last thing you notice is the smell, the faint sweetness of honey still clinging to your fingertips, mingled with smoke and rain. It is the scent of the wild world dreaming through you. And as your mind drifts lower, voices fade, the fire sip's glow dims to memory, and the world folds itself into perfect darkness. Like a candle going out,